We're going to talk today about creation myths. Creation myths are important because where a people believe that they came from shapes where they believe that they are going and where they believe they are. So there's just three kind of basic archetypes that I want to talk about today, just real quick. Creation from chaos, creation ex nihilo, which is out of nothing, and creation from emergence. These myths, these understandings will tell us what, how kind of people inside of a civilization understand their origins so that they can understand who they are. A lot of the ancient Near East believed in a creation from chaos. So, like Christianity, Judaism, Islam had this understanding that something happened. There was already kind of this pre existing something that God created out of. So, in the Jewish scriptures, Genesis 2, you have the verse, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So you have this thought of there's nothing there except for chaotic, unordered matter that's swirling around. In the book of Job in the Jewish scriptures, you have the description of a sea monster, a leviathan that was possibly in the waters. You also have throughout the prophetic texts of Judaism, you have mention of a great dragon that was in there, in the chaos, the primordial kind of craziness that was going on that then is slain. You have this in other religious understandings. In the myth of Marduk and Tiamat, you have Marduk killing Tiamat and creating the world out of Tiamat's avenged body. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, you have the understanding, well, right, of that fight and how the world is created kind of not just out of chaos, but out of a cosmic battle. Um, the Greeks had this understanding that Gaia, love, and the abyss and the Erebus emerged from chaos. Gaia gave birth to the sky, which fertilized the earth and brought forth the creatures. So there's multiple things, but there's not complete and utter order. There's not quite balance going on as but as they emerge from the chaos, these gods, they create order out of it. Same with the Sumerians. Um, you can take your time reading this, but just go ahead and pause or whatever. But when upon the hill of heaven and earth, On created the Anunnaki, the lesser deities, since he neither spawned nor created grain with them, and since in the land he never fashioned the yarn of the Utu, the goddess of weeping, nor pegged out the loom for Utu, with no sheep appearing, there were no numberless lambs, and with no goats, there were no numberless kids. The sheep did not give birth to their twin lambs, and the goat did not give birth to her triplet kids. The Anunnaki, the great gods, did not know even the names of grain or sheep. This takes a lot to kind of fight through, but the ancient Sumerians believed that there was different levels of gods and that not all there's not this one supreme creator god like in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, but there's this fight for kind of who creates and who makes. um, the myth of Pangu, which is an Eastern myth, I believe, I want to say Chinese, um, is that in the beginning there was nothing in the universe except for a formless chaos. So we have the chaos motif going on. The chaos coalesced into a cosmic egg for about 18,000 years. The perfectly opposed principles of yin and yang became balanced. So you have the chaos becoming ordered. And then Pangu emerged or woke up from the egg. And then Pangu began creating the world, separating yin from yang with a swing of his giant axe, creating the earth, yin, and the sky, yang. So again, a lot of this is an understanding of chaos and order, making the chaotic ordered. And we see this in the cultures a lot that we'll be studying this semester, where there's movements from chaos to order. People like order more than they like chaos. So it makes sense that there is an understanding that there is order is findable, because if the world was created out of chaos and ordered by the gods, then the world can be ordered and we can understand the world and know the world as something that is ordered. Now, at the same time, Christianity and sometimes preaches creation ex nihilo, which is creation out of nothing. This is from Genesis 1. This is the understanding, also with Genesis 2, that the earth was out without form and void, and that God spoke and things appeared out of the darkness, out of the void, out of the nothingness. It depends on how you translate things. It depends on what you're trying to argue for. But you have this understanding that God is completely, or their version of God is completely supreme and controls everything because they created everything. We also have the emergent myth. Sometimes we see this more spread out. We don't see it really in the ancient Near East. We see it in Australia. A lot of the tribes in America of Native Americans, of the indigenous people, had this view that either the world emerges from subsequent worlds, or that the world emerges from a different world, or the God itself gives birth. So you have the Hopi Indians, where the world is the fourth world created by Tawa. So you do have a creating spirit, but Tawa is not the creator God, the ultimate omnipotent God. The other three worlds were abandoned or destroyed due to people disobeying Tawa. And the spider grandmother transported those worthy from world to world. So you have worlds emerging out of other worlds. And you kind of have this devious character of the spider grandmother who is going against Tawa by moving the people that Tawa is trying to obliterate and start over from. So you have a merging of different worlds, and you kind of have this trickster, a little bit of, but you also have this understanding that there's merit in people and that merit will be rewarded. The Maori have this understanding that all people are connected through the genealogy of the gods. All people stem from one source, the great heaven which stands above and the earth which lies below. According to the Maori, heaven and earth are themselves the source of everything. Everything comes out of Papa Earth and Rangi Heaven. Everything is interconnected, interwoven, and emerges from each other, gives birth to each other. The world is given birth by the gods. And then you have the fun of Jainism, which is that the universe and all its parts have always existed. There is no creation. The world has never been, it will never cease to be. It always has been. No creator God. And everything kind of cycles. And this makes sense with the Jainist view that everything is sacred. You have to be nonviolent towards anything, do nothing harm, engage in your life with that sort of mindset that all is, all has always been, all will always be. So you just have this recycling, regeneration built into the creation myth of Jainism, but it doesn't have any end. There is no creator, there is no moment of creation, there's no Big Bang, anything like that. And speaking of the Big Bang, the rejection of kind of a religious myth becomes kind of a religious founding myth also. So something like the understanding of the Big Bang Theory, which we know came from a Catholic priest, of course. It speaks to like this, well, we have a very scientific understanding of creation, and trying to backtrack it all the way and saying, you know, these are the scientific origins. This is how we understand the origin scientifically, is doing the same work that trying to understand the origins religiously do. And the culture engaging either way, the way we would normally use the word religiously, or the way that us kind of contemporary, you know, American and Northern European kind of people would say scientifically, are engaging in the same way of trying to shape our story and tell people who we are, how we believe, and how we see the world. So if you want to understand how someone sees the world, it makes sense to understand how they see the creation of the world. And if you've watched my other video on the afterlife, it also makes sense to understand the culture that is to understand how they view the afterlife.